You don't need permission to honor Celtic deities. On social media, I keep seeing a lot of questions that look like requests for reassurance from people wanting to honor Celtic gods. People often start by stating their family or genetic history. Maybe they feel the deity might be reaching out to them, or they just want to explore Celtic polytheism. They want to know whether, given whatever their specific scenario is, it would be okay to do that. Would it be cultural appropriation? Would someone be offended? Would the gods accept them? Is there a book that will explain it all? While each person's questions are valid and deserve answers, there's also a lot of overthinking going on. So I just want to say straight up that you do not need anyone's permission to honor any Celtic deity. No famous Irish witch or Welsh druid or whatever has the right to gatekeep that. There are things which might offend some people in some places. There are things you possibly could do which amount to cultural appropriation or cultural misrepresentation. And I guess you might anger a deity if you try hard enough, but just making an altar, making an offering, saying a prayer, things like that, that's fine. You don't need anybody's permission to do that. And no one is really much of an authority on the right or wrong way to do it. On the other hand, if something doesn't feel right to you, then just don't do it. And don't let anybody pressure you or make you feel like you should do it. You shouldn't do things until you're ready. Of course you shouldn't. But what does ready look like? We're all different. Some people just jump into things and they figure out how to get better at doing them as they go along. I mean, that would be me. Other people need to kind of circle a situation for a long time, weigh up all the angles, do a bunch of research. And there's nothing wrong with that until it starts to prevent you from taking action. You can get trapped in a permanent loop of getting ready. I used to teach music. A lot of my pupils were adults who really wanted to perform, even if it was just for their friends and family, but they felt like they weren't ready. I always told them not to put it off. Your family will probably be the most forgiving of your nerves and your mistakes when they know you're a beginner. So go play Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star for them. Don't take yourself too seriously. Don't expect them to take your little concert too seriously either. In a few months, when you can play a wee bit better, I used to say, they'll see how far you've come. So an approach like that allows for what I think of as organic growth, natural growth into something. And I think you can see with my little story how the gods are in that same position as your family listening to your little concert. If you'd like to delve a little deeper into the topics in my videos, you might enjoy taking one of my online classes. You can find out more about them at the link which is on your screen now. You can also support my work on Ko-fi or by becoming a patron. You'll also find free content to read on my Patreon page and on my website. All the links are in the description. So when I started wanting to do something to reach out to deities, there was no instruction manual that I knew of. My first ritual, if you can call it that, went something like this. You'll love this. I acquired some enormous branches of rosemary from somewhere. And on a day, I don't know if it was Imbolc or Beltane, I honestly can't remember, it doesn't matter. I proceeded to the top of a hill where I often went. It was a place that felt sacred to me, where I'd been reaching out to the gods. Anyway, I took my massive rosemary boughs and a bottle of olive oil and some matches, and then I went up this hill at dawn. And as the sun rose, I poured the oil over the rosemary and lit it all on fire and called out to a few deities and gave my offering to them. Now, the only thing I'd say about that is don't try that if you're not used to working with fire or any place where you might start a grass fire or a forest fire. I had lots of experience with fire. So other than that, the details aren't really important. Your first ritual probably won't look anything like that. It will probably be a lot more sensible. What's important is that I did a thing in honor of the gods that felt right to me. I've never repeated that actual specific ritual, but it felt great and it felt right. I only had the vaguest notion who the gods I reached out to even were beyond their names. But I'd made a start. 40 years later, I'm still here. I also see people getting hung up on historical accuracy. They're often looking to practice some form of Celtic reconstruction. They dig and they dig, looking for information that just isn't there. They learn languages, they read up on comparative mythology, archaeology, goodness knows what else. They feel they must construct a complete edifice of religion before they can begin to practice. They often think that if they build it, people will come and worship with them in their elaborately constructed way. Well, good luck to them, but often no one does come, and the 2 or 3 people who began it end up just bickering about the details, or some of them decide to go off and do a different religion or take up some other hobby because the thing they built, never really got off the ground. Now, you can do whatever you want to do. You don't need my permission to construct a complex set of practices if that's what you have to do. But my opinion is that approach doesn't have the gods, at the center of it where they belong. I think people get sidetracked by stuff which maybe leaks over into paganism from things like fantasy books and role-playing games. By all means, be elaborate if it feels right to you, but don't let it get in the way of just connecting with deity. You can connect with the deity now and say, hey, I'm building you a thing, and someday we'll use it together. Now, I'm not saying that the study of history and mythology isn't worthwhile. As you might know, drawing closer to the gods through the study of their myths is very important to me. But that's a life's work. Understanding Celtic culture, mythology, folklore, history, you'll never arrive at the end of that. Learning about that, and I think you should, goes hand in hand with your growing relationship with deity. It's not a stage you can complete first.